Hello everybody, it's Star Raptor here. Welcome to my spoiler-filled discussion for Star Wars Phasma. I put up the review spoiler-free on a channel a couple weeks ago. Make sure you check that out. Obviously, if you don't want to be spoiled, then why are you even watching this? Because I'm going to break it all down. I'm going to see if there's connections here that might pay off in The Last Jedi, so I'm going to do some speculation, some theories, but the format I'm going to stick with is kind of going over all the main story beats, and then after that I'm going to just come up with some random thoughts of things that I've seen that were kind of interesting. So getting into the story. So this takes place anywhere from 6 years to a few months to The Force Awakens. It is not clear, but it is clear, however, this takes place after Star Wars Bloodline, which is basically the start of the Resistance, which happens 6 years before that. And I know that because this story starts off with the character of V. Moriarty, who was sent by General Leia Organa herself to go on this mission in the unknown regions, and she's intercepted by the Absolution, which is a resurgent Star Destroyer, and she immediately is met by this character named Cardinal, and he is a red stormtrooper, and he is basically interrogating her for information on Phasma, which he knows that she knows about Phasma because she was actually sent by the Resistance a few months or a few weeks, it's not certain, to actually dig up information on Phasma. So he knows that she knows secrets, and he's gonna get that information from her. So a little bit of backstory about Cardinal. So he actually ties into the story Empire's End, which is part of the Aftermath trilogy. He was one of those children that was on Jakku at the age of 10 or something when Brendel Hux swept up all these children and went off to space and start the First Order, basically. So that is basically the origins of Cardinal, and he actually is named Cardinal and the only stormtrooper named Cardinal because the rest of them in the First Order actually have identification numbers, kind of like, the TK whatever in Star Wars, the Empire's reign. They kind of pick up the same sort of thing, and his job in the First Order is basically to train the up-and-coming stormtrooper cadets or whatever up to the age of 16. That is his job, and he's been doing that for like 15 years now. And he has seen Phasma come in, and out of nowhere, she just gets all this praise. So she's very mysterious, even to the people in the First Order. She never really reveals her face or anything. He knows that she's too good to be true. He thinks that there's got to be something mysterious that she has done to gain favor with the superiors of the First Order. So that is his mission. That is why he got V. Moriarty and is holding her hostage. And the reason why V. Moriarty knows of all this information is because she was on the planet that Phasma grew up, which is called Parnassus. So she knows from a secondhand source, which her name is Civ, which is one of the compatriots of Phasma. And that's where the second part of the story of Phasma goes into play, because we have this current story which revolves around Cardinal getting revenge on Phasma, and then we have the story that is being told from V, which is on Parnassus. And this takes place at first starting 12 years prior to the events of what is going on with Cardinal, if that makes any sense. It's a little bit hard to keep track, and I kind of mentioned that in my review. So going to the flashbacks kind of thing here, Parnassus is this planet that has been colonized for 180 years. 180 years ago, it was basically colonized. It was sent for mining resources and stuff of that nature. But there was an accident that went wrong with this nuclear plant, and it made the world go into a very inhospitable state. Yeah, I finally said it. So there's acid rain, and there's not a lot of crops or anything, at least in the area that Phasma grows up. So they have these weird kind of gadgetry called the Detractors, and the one tribe, because this is all built up by tribes of people, it's very Mad Max-esque, and you're going to hear that from a lot of people, the way it's kind of apocalyptic looking. You got some people that have blasters, but not really. A lot of people are using melee weapons and whatnot. So anyway, there's these gadgets called the Detractors, which basically siphon liquids from living creatures or even humans, and that's what is created with this salve, which the character Civ uses, and the people put it on their faces and stuff to keep out the diseases and stuff of that nature, and actually uses healing salves and whatnot. So it's very interesting, the culture. But anyway, getting back into this story, what happens on Parnassus is there's these, like I said, there's these tribes, and there's warring tribes, And Phasma is part of the Scryer tribe, which is with her friend Civ. And Phasma actually has a brother, and his name is Keldo. And they are basically ruling this place until one day that they have this starfighter that crashes down, which never really happens. And they say, let's go check this thing out. Turns out that Brendel Hux, the Brendel Hux from Empire's End was actually on that ship. Now, he is asking the people, Phasma's people, to get him back to his ship because he actually crashed down in the escape pod, not the actual vessel. He says if he can get back to his actual ship, he has some kind of communications that he could send out to have the First Order get them, and then they can actually join the First Order because, especially Phasma, she doesn't want to be there anymore. It's just a terrible place to live in. She vows that she's going to get Brendel Hux and to a ship and get out of there. So that's what her mission is. She kind of basically turns her back on her people, the Scryers, to take a few of her select Prime people along with the Stormtroopers and Brendel Hux to go on this long journey across the planet to places that were never even charted by their own people to get this stranger out of there. So that's she wants to survive, and that's the basis for the entire story, is for her going there. So a few things to note here about Phasma's appearance before the First Order. So, like I said, she's part of the Scryers. You can think of them as kind of barbarians in a way. They're using a lot of crude weapons like saw blades and swords and axes and spears and whatnot. So it's very much like a Spartan society where the strongest survive, sort of thing, of that nature. It's very much like a hunter-gatherer kind of place. They don't really have animals too much going around. They have to just like eat slime and crap like that. But Phasma's appearance as described in this novel is absolutely frightening, and I hope there's somebody out there that actually tries to make a rendition of this, because she's got this like red mask with these like feathers, and it's just supposedly terrifying. And this is what kind of leads me into my next point, is that in this novel throughout, she ends up getting like a Mandalorian helmet. It sounds like she has like a T-visor on there for a little bit. But then she eventually takes over one of the Stormtroopers' armor that was, with Brendel Hux after that person died. And she starts using the helmet. And once she puts on that helmet for the first time, she just basically becomes another being. And she doesn't want to take the helmet off. So it's interesting because going into the Last Jedi, I think there was a report out there saying that we might not actually see her face. So if it's anything like this novel, we probably won't see her face. Another interesting thing about this is that we do see Phasma having that spear at one point in this novel. So if you guys have seen, I think it was Vanity Fair a couple months back, they put out pictures of, Gwendolyn Christie posing without her helmet, but she had a spear. So I'm guessing that she's going to somehow keep a track of that spear and maybe use it in combat. Really cool, because we know from this novel that, you think The Force Awakens really steered us in another way. Like, oh yeah, we have this awesome character and she doesn't fire her weapon once. Well, Delilah Dawson, the author of this novel, just went the other way with it and was like, we're going to show Phasma in her prime. So as I mentioned, there is Phasma along with Brendel Hux and everybody else, and they're taking this journey all the way across Parnassus, and it is a journey filled with blood, to say the least, because they are going against everything. They're going against the wildlife. They're being attacked from these like skin wolf creatures that again sound absolutely terrifying. I would love to see images of them. They have other rival tribes that are headed by like a Dug alien, like Sebulba. There's a lot of backstabbing, but you see Phasma at one point in this arena, and that part was one of my favorite parts of the novel, is when you see Phasma in this arena, and she literally jumps up to the stands and beheads one of the leaders of this particular culture. It was unbelievable. And at one point, she cuts somebody literally in half. Like, her strength is unmatched by just about anyone. It's unbelievable the amount of just carnage that she deals with. And just speeding things up a little bit for you guys here. So basically, all in all, Phasma goes through this journey. They deal with disease as well, like radiation poisoning. People are dropping off left and right. And throughout the novel, you see her start to care less and less about her people. Because at first, when she wants to declare herself as loyal to Brendel Hux in the First Order, she's doing that, at least it looks like, because we're getting told from Civ's point of view, not actually Phasma's point of view, that she is wanting to do this for her people, the greater good of her people. But as far as we get further into this novel, she starts leaving her people for dead and taking the advice of Brendel Hux, who Brendel Hux would be like, we don't need that person. Even though she's your best friend, we don't really need her. And at one point, Phasma leaves her friend to die after the entire journey. They get to the ship, they find the ship, and then she leaves her friend to die on the planet. And it's just crazy to me how much conniving that Phasma does to get what she wants, which is ultimately to survive. And this is kind of where the secret is revealed, guys. Her biggest secret is that she switches loyalty to whoever she wants to basically survive. So we get a flashback at the end of the novel, right? Where it's when she first encounters the Squire people, because her and her brother and her mother and her father used to be part of a smaller clan that was, they didn't want to move on and get assimilated into another culture. So they were very much in their own ways. And Phasma thought ahead of this and said, hey, this is not good. We have to band together to survive. And the parents were having it. So what she does is she goes behind her back and she plants this scheme where basically the Scryers actually kill her parents, and it's all of her own doing to actually orchestrate this attack. And it even goes a step further when she ends up putting the salve that was, harvested from her parents' body onto her face, and it's just like a thing of absolute horror, really. And it's just that on top of what she does in, with her own people, with the First Order, and then we see her you can make connections to The Force Awakens when she takes down the shield generator. She was either going to be killed right there, which first off I don't agree with, because after read this novel, how could she not take on Han Solo and Finn? I mean, she could have easily taken on, but that's besides the point. She switches up and she wants to survive, so she turns down the shields. So basically, this is what happens with Cardinal. We're going back to present time when Cardinal finally learns of all this information, right? He has to go and he has to tell the authorities of, hey, Phasma is not a good soldier. She's going to eventually turn her back on you guys, so you got to figure this out. So who else does she go to tell about this is none other than Hux. He tells Hux, Armitage Hux, the son of Brendel Hux, that, hey, look, Phasma is actually not good. We got to get rid of her. He basically said, oh, she actually killed your father, Brendel Hux, because that was another big thing of this novel, was trying to decipher why did Hux suddenly die of this sickness. Well, it was in fact an indigenous species of a beetle that was on Parnassus that Phasma actually smuggled back with her to poison Brendel Hux. And when Cardinal actually revealed this information to Armitage Hux, the son of Brendel, Armitage Hux actually said, oh, it was part of my plan too. I didn't like my father ever. So then you see Cardinal like, oh crap, now I'm against everybody. And what happens at the end of the novel is that Cardinal confronts Phasma and says, I know what you've done. I know all your secrets. You tried to erase Parnassus from the databanks. You tried to kill every single person that knew about your exposure on Parnassus and all your betrayals. But I am the one who knows. And they go into this epic battle, right? They go into this epic battle where they're both fighting in this simulation room for the First Order troops on the Resurgent Star Destroyer. And next thing you know, it looks like Phasma has killed Cardinal, because there's famous words in any book that says, and then it goes black. And you're like, oh, well, Cardinal's dead. And I telegraphed that from the beginning. I was like, this guy's so going to die by the time we get to the end of this novel. So we then later find out that he is revived by V, the prisoner, that he eventually let kind of loose to go on her own after he got all the information out of her. She comes back and she saves Cardinal because she had mentioned earlier about him, about how he should defect. So she had a change of heart. I don't know how the hell this happened. With the guy torturing you, I don't know how you could save him. But she ends up saving him, and they go on the run. They go back to Parnassus, and then we know that Captain Phasma wanted to actually go back there and tie up some loose ends with another person that was still back there, or Civ. But yeah, that's basically what happens in this novel, is that we have this open-endedness of Cardinal out there still with V Marathi on Parnassus, and we have Captain Phasma saying she wants to go and finish up loose ends, and that's how the story ends. So I'm like, okay, are we going to get some more resolution to these characters now that are kind of left up in the air? Are we maybe going to see one of these characters in The Last Jedi. I heard something earlier today about somebody speculating that, hey, maybe Cardinal is actually, Antonio Banderas' character, DJ. I don't know. Their ages kind of be 10 years off, I think, or something like that, but I don't think that's a big deal. But hey, it could be something there. But getting back to Phasma and her ultimate secret, I just want to do some more speculation. So we have these instances of Phasma actually changing the course like it's nothing, like between allegiances. So I think it might be possible. We might see her just give up on the First Order altogether in this next movie. I think that'd be very interesting. We already had one person, or two people defect now from the First Order. We had Finn, and now we have Cardinal. So Captain Phasma, if something goes wrong with Snoke, she might just say, hey, I'm out of here. Maybe I don't think she'll ever join a resistance, but I think she could just maybe become like some sort of mercenary for hire or bounty hunter. If that's any indication of what she has done in the past. She's more of like the soldier of fortune and just out for her own good. And I almost forgot one of the most important things that happened in Phasma was actually how Phasma got her legendary chrome armor. So the ship that Brendel Hux actually crashed down in was of Nubian design. It was actually Emperor Palpatine's personal yacht. So Phasma goes back a year after she gets back into the First Order, and she basically scavenges plates of that ship and gets these special schematics that she loads into the special forge on Parnassus to forge her own armor. And I thought that aspect was really cool because it just shows that armor really means a lot to her. That armor is what changed her character into this strong character that would just survive through it all. Okay, so moving on to some random facts that I've read through and thought were pretty fascinating. So at one point in the story, Brendel Hux, on their journey to find his ship, injects Phasma with this kind of serum that automatically heals her face within very quick amount of time. So I'm just always wondering what that is, because in one of the Poe Dameron issues I've read of the comics, there was this other commander of the First Order, and she actually injected something into her eyeball to give her super steroids. So it seems like First Order has some kind of very advanced medical technology that I want to learn more about. Another thing was interesting for me was how the First Order at the point of the Parnassus storyline, so 10, 15 years before The Force Awakens, somewhere like that, they already have millions of troops in the First Order. Another thing was interesting was apparently Snoke back then was a thing. So he was a leader all the way back then. And going forward to the Cardinal storyline, which again could have been anywhere from 6 years before to a few months before The Force Awakens, Kylo Ren is a thing. We know in Bloodline that Ben Solo was the name, and he wasn't Kylo Ren yet. So somewhere in that timeline he has changed. So I thought that was kind of cool. I think the First Order troopers are very obedient. We have a couple instances where the First Order stormtroopers are talking out of command, and Brendel Hux is quick to just, light their asses on fire and say, you gotta shut up unless I tell you to talk. So they are very, very obedient when it comes to that sort of thing. Another thing about the First Order troops are they actually programmed during sleep. They actually just have stuff subliminally flashed in their minds. That's really interesting. One of my favorite characters in canon so far got, I think, 2 name drops in this novel. That's right, it's Grand Admiral Sloan. Not Throne, sorry guys. Sloan, I love that character. She was introduced in New Dawn. She showed up in the canon comics. She was a very pivotal role in the Aftermath trilogy. She was named as being, and she was basically somewhere around there. I don't know if they basically said she isn't here when Cardinal was talking to Armitage Hux. So I don't know if that means she's not here as if she's not living anymore, or if she's not here she's somewhere out in space. Let's hope it's the latter. About the Resistance, there is V. Marati, and she had some kind of a cyanide tooth thing in her mouth. So if she was never going to get out of this thing and she would give too much information away, that just goes to show you the extent of the Resistance and how important their mission is. If they have to, they will commit suicide rather than have the enemy torture them to complete failure or to give up information they really don't want to give up. Another funny nod to canon is that apparently Delilah Dawson put chicken in canon now. We do have chicken in Star Wars canon. So thanks for that. And one last thing I want to mention, which is pretty funny, is that Delilah Dawson slided a bit of Anakin Skywalker dialogue into this novel. So at this one point of the story, there is a scryer soldier who is talking to Brendel Hux, and he asks him, "What is sand like?" And Brendel replies, "It shifts under your feet, coarse and rough, irritating, and it gets everywhere." So that was freaking hilarious when I read that thing. But that is going to do it for my spoiler discussion of Phasma. Now it's time for you guys to join in on the conversation, join in on the speculation and the theories. What do you think some of these little nods are going to mean in The Last Jedi? Let's talk about it in that comment section below, because that is honestly one of my favorite things to do with you guys, is just to have this conversation about what we think might and might not happen, especially when it's concerning the films. So that is going to do it for this spoiler-filled discussion. I have plenty of other content on the channel, so make sure you go ahead and check it out. And please subscribe if you like this content. I have tons of other Star Wars comic reviews, and I do a lot of movie talk as well as TV talk as far as everything with fandoms. I've Marvel, DC, whatever. Also, I have a giveaway at the time of recording. I will have it up until tomorrow, Tuesday the 19th, for a book that I'm giving away. I have the link up in the description below, as well as you can click up there on that little card to know more about how to win that book. But that is going to do it for me, Star Raptor. I want to thank you guys for watching, and may the Force be with you always. Thanks for checking out the video. Please hit that thumbs up symbol. It helps me know that I'm making content that you guys enjoy. And if you enjoyed this video, I also include 2 videos down below you guys should check out. And please consider subscribing to this channel. It helps support me, and it notifies you guys of when I get new videos up on the channel. You can also contact me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Star Raptor.